Stage. All right, welcome to Bible study. Who's out there? Evie? Hi, man. Thank you for being the lone person here. Hang on, I've got an echo. One moment. Hi, Osvaldo. All right, so it's Sunday. We're going to take a trip. We're going to see what's going on out there in the world of the Abrahamic religions. We're not doing we're not doing the Muslims. We're going to do the Yidden, and then we'll check on the Catholics, and then we'll cast a glance over at my favorites, the Orthodox Christians. So I couldn't really find anything specific that they do today on this date, such as, okay, this is going to be our backdrop. All right. I'm going to read the Torah reading for the day, but I want to read it from the King James Bible because the Torah is so inelegant. I mean, it's written just modernized prose, right? And like deliberately bland. It's the worst. It's the effing worst. When I first picked up a Torah, like it was 5, 6 years ago, right? Luke Ford says, "Oh, join me for Torah talk on Sundays." Right? That's when I first started doing this, right? And I happened to have a Torah that I picked up in a thrift store because I always hit the books in the thrift store if they've got any, right? And I'll always go through the bookcase and look for just random stuff, right? I've found great finds in there. And I found this Torah. I thought, yeah, I'm going to grab a Torah because I have my King James, of course. I have my, somewhere around here, I had the, the Muslim one, the Quran, which is horrible. I never could really crack it. Well, you can read the King James Bible for pleasure once you get used to the language. The Torah is just ridiculous. I mean, they're nothing, right? But so anyway, I picked up a Torah in a thrift store, and it was like some some girl, Shoshana, got it for her, bat mitzvah, I guess it is for the girls. So she got it for her bat mitzvah and donated it, got rid of it. That's funny. So anyway, I had the Torah, which I thought was funny. But then, of course, I discovered it's just like, it's the worst. It's horrible. It's, you can't see me. Why can't you see me? I see me. Okay. There I am. All right. I'm up there. Let's see. What do I need to do to fix this? Moses. Yeah. I mean, the Jews are just always, every story is about this wonderful, glamorous, genius Jew who runs everything for, you got to hand it to him, man. Storytelling is, the secret to success in the ethnic struggle. The people who are best at telling stories seem to come out on top somehow. I don't like it, but that seems to be the way it is. So anyway, what is the Torah reading today? I forget what it's called in the Torah, but in what I consider the equivalent of real American English. In the King James Bible, it's Exodus, what was it? It's where Moses gives the law. It's Exodus 17 through 20, I think. Are we actually going to read this? Exodus 18 through 2023. Can we make it that far? Can we pull that off? If there are any objections, just say so right now. Maybe some of you are triggered by religious things. I can't see shit in here. That's a little better. All right. Exodus chapter 18. It's also the Torah reading for this day. When Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard of all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, his people, and that the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt, then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' wife, after he had sent her back. I don't even know what that means. And her 2 sons, of which the name of the one was Gershom, for he said, I have been an alien in a strange land. Stranger in a strange land, right? And the name of the other was Eliezer, right? And the name of the other one was Eliezer, for the God of my father said he was mine help, and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife unto Moses into the wilderness, where he encamped at the mount of God. And he said unto Moses, I, thy father-in-law Jethro, am come unto thee, and thy wife, and her 2 sons with her. And Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, and did obeisance, and kissed him, and they asked each other of their welfare. And they came into the tent. And Moses told his father-in-law all that the Lord had done unto Pharaoh, and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, and all the travail that had come upon them by the way, and how the Lord delivered them. And Jethro rejoiced for all the goodness which the Lord had done to Israel, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Jethro said, Blessed be the Lord, who hath delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of Pharaoh, who hath delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods, for in the thing wherein they dealt proudly he was above them. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and sacrifices for God, and Aaron came, and all the elders of Israel, to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before God. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood by Moses from the morning unto the evening. And when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did to the people, he said, What is this thing that thou doest to the people? Why sittest thou thyself alone, and all the people stand by thee from morning unto evening? And Moses said unto his father-in-law, Because the people come unto me to inquire of God. When they have a matter, they come unto me, and I judge them one and another, and I do make them know the statutes of God and his laws. And Moses' father-in-law said unto him, The thing that thou doest is not good. Thou wilt surely wear away, both thou and this people that is with thee. For this thing is too heavy for thee. Thou art not able to perform it thyself alone. Hearken now unto my voice. I will give thee counsel, and God shall be with thee. Be thou for the people to Godward, that thou mayest bring the causes unto God. And thou shalt teach them ordinances and laws, and shalt show them the way wherein they must walk, and the work that they must do. Moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands and rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s and rulers of 10s. And let them judge the people at all seasons. And it shall be that every great matter they shall bring unto thee, but every small matter they shall judge, so shall it be easier for thyself, and they shall bear the burden with thee. If thou shalt do this thing, and God command thee so, even thou shalt be able to endure, and all this people shall also go to their place in peace. So Moses hearkened to the voice of his father-in-law, and did all that he had said. And Moses chose able men out of all Israel, and made them heads over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And they judged the people at all seasons. The hard causes they brought unto Moses, but every small matter they judged themselves. And Moses let his father-in-law depart, and he went his way into his own land. Chapter 19. Oh my God. Well, that was dumb. That was rather foolish. All right. But it's such a good background. Yeah, maybe if you reverse the screen, you could do it. Anyway, we're seeing if we're coming back on. We are back. All right. Thank you. Okay, we're reading. We're still reading our Bible. We were stopped probably because I'm not supposed to play. What was that? Warner Brothers, the film, The Ten Commandments, was playing in the background because it's so good. As a background, I mean. Hey, King James Version, of course, Brian. All right, let's just do it because, all that lurid imagery really, and we're going to go with the more Protestant. We'll still read King James Bible, but we're going to go with the more Protestant aesthetic, as you see. All right. Where were we? All right. Darn it, I really want something in the background. Let's just see, something little. We can't do anything really. No. I mean, there's nothing. I'm looking through what sort of visuals YouTube might have. Really. It's just nothing would be better than to show the Ten Commandments behind me. Anyway, all right. Chapter 19, Exodus 19. In the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai. For they were departed from Rephidim, and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness. And there Israel camped before the mount. And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom. This is really sinister. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. And Moses came and called for the elders and the people, and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, All that the Lord hath spoken we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Moses, Lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear
when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go unto the people, and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes, and be ready against the third day. For the third day the Lord will come in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. And thou shalt set bounds unto the people round about, saying, Take heed to yourselves, that ye go not up into the mount, or touch the border of it. Whosoever toucheth the mount will surely be put to death. And there shall not be a hand touch it, but he shall surely be stoned, or shot through. Whether it be beast or man, it shall not live. When the trumpet soundeth long, they shall come up to the mount. And Moses went down from the mount unto the people, and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said unto the people, Be ready against the third day, come not at your wives. And it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings, and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that it was in the camp trembled. And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the nether part of the mount. And Mount Sinai was altogether a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly. And then the voice of the trumpet sounded long, and waxed louder and louder. Moses spake, and God answered him by a voice. And the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai, on the top of the mount, and the Lord called Moses up to the top of the mount, and Moses went up. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go down, charge the people, lest they break down unto the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish. And let the priests also, which come near to the Lord, sanctify themselves, lest the Lord break forth upon them. And Moses said unto the Lord, The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for thou chargedst us, saying, Set bounds about the mount, and sanctify it. Yeah, okay, we'll have something to say about this later, I guess. And the Lord said unto him, Away, get thee down, and thou shalt come up, thou and Aaron with thee. But let not the priests and the people break through to come up unto the Lord, lest he break forth upon them. So Moses went down unto the people and spake unto them. And God spake all these words, saying, this is chapter 20, sorry. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but on the seventh day it is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and the sea, and all that in them is, and rested on the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day, and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. And all the people saw the thunderings, and the lightnings, and the noise of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed, and stood afar off. And they said unto Moses, Speak thou with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die. And Moses said unto the people, Fear not, for God is come to prove you, and that this his fear may be before your faces, that ye not sin. And the people stood afar off, and Moses drew near unto the thick darkness where God was. And the Lord said unto Moses, Thus thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, Ye have seen that I have talked with you from heaven. Ye shall not make with me gods of silver, neither shall ye make unto you gods of gold. And I think that's where the Torah reading stops. 20:23 of Exodus. It's interesting because it goes on. I'm sure it has to go on, but it goes on. In the time of Moses, they were still fucking offering burnt offerings and stuff. Exodus 20:24. An altar of earth thou shalt make unto me, and shalt sacrifice thereon thy burnt offerings, and thy peace offerings, thy sheep and thine oxen. In all places where I record my name, I will come unto thee, and I will bless thee. And if thou wilt make me an altar of stone, thou shalt not build it of hewn stone, for thou lift up thy tool upon it, thou hast polluted it. If thou lift up thy tool upon it, thou hast polluted it. Neither shalt thou go up by steps unto mine altar, that thy nakedness be not discovered thereon. Yeah. So, anyway, like I said, it could be very sinister, one's interpretation of what happens here. This is where it's established, the Gnostic tradition of somebody as an intermediary between the people and God. And look at the way Moses proceeds. In reading this, if this was just a story, you would think, is this guy pulling a fast one? The whole thing reads as if it's a great magic trick, right? It could have been. Say this is a literal story, and this actually happened, but it was a trick. I know it's Sunday, it's not right for me to, but say it was a great trick. Let's make a bunch of smoke, and let's tell the people, don't get close, you can't get close, God will smite you, and we're going to make a bunch of smoke, and we're going to do all these tricks, That's what the Jews say of Jesus, right? He was a magician. We're going to do all these tricks, but above all, keep your distance from God. Only I can talk to God. This is established in Moses. I hope okay. I think we're still going. Yeah, thank you. This is established in Exodus, that the people will be separated by these prophets who were randomly chosen, or perhaps managed to place themselves there. One of my pet crackpot theories is that modern day people of the tribe are in fact emulating these prophets we know from the Bible without even realizing it. But everybody imagines themselves to be Isaiah or Moses. Everybody of the tribe imagines themselves to be Isaiah, whose thing was that he called Israel to account for her iniquity and tried to shape and tried to save her from herself. And every one of these people with this ambition that's really like madness, and it really should be. In a sane world, this level of ambition which should be treated as madness. This ambition, this is, I ultimately don't give a fuck about what I'm allowed to do morally. I'm going to get there, right? We celebrate this now. This is a problem. Anyway, we're back. We're back, and we're going to. Yeah, I'm just thinking it's interesting. The whole Moses story is weird. Moses, you may know, of course you know. You watched the Bible, Bubba's Bible study. You know this. And Moses actually had a weird speaking voice. These kind of details in the Old Testament lend, to me, lend veracity to it. I'm thinking, there's got to be something to these stories. Moses had a horrible speaking voice, so Aaron would speak for him. And, the whole Moses story is so comic, and it's too bad, I guess for whatever reasons, the Jews won't, because they are our best satirists, sadly. But they won't satirize it. But that aspect is hilarious that, he's got a squeaky, weird voice. And he has to talk to Aaron, and then Aaron talks to people. That, you got to give him credit. How did you become the leader of the Hebrews, right? With that ridiculous, anyway. Like I said, there's something sinister in what we read today. It establishes both the covenant. You're going to be my special people. You're my boys. You're my guys. Fuck everybody else. It's me and you, baby. Come on. I'm sorry. It's not anti-Semitic to view this as a horror. It's not. It can't be. It can't be anti-Semitic to view simply that as horrifying. But of course, again, and also in this, it's astounding how much was established in that few paragraphs. Like I said, the separation, the establishment of, what's the word, it's escaping me, but the sort of Gnostic sort of idea that there are, certain elect will talk to God and are going to tell you, and in fact are going to keep you away from God. God is going to be obscured and mist and terror. What is that? Sometimes I'm glad I'm an unbeliever. All right. Well, let's see what's going on with the Catholics. All right. Gospel and thought for the day. Reading of the day. This is Vatican News for 2, I guess Friday, they do a reading of the day. Hey, Tom. Oh, Brian had something to say. And they constantly go against God, even though they are God's chosen people. Yeah, isn't that amazing, Brian? And that's what makes it a great story. If they were obedient and they just let God tuck them in, why wouldn't you? We got no story. We got no movie. You got to picture, a bunch of hotshot Jewish agent types sitting around hashing this out, right? Working on the story. We could do stories, just like anything else. We could outdo them in storytelling. Though they are the best storytellers right now. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know what I would do without the Coen brothers at this point. But anyway, here's what the Catholics are up to. Reading of the day for February 2nd is the first reading from the book of Job. Job 7:1 to 4. That's just a paragraph here. Job spoke, saying, "Is not man's life on earth a drudgery? Are not his days those of hirelings? He is a slave who longs for the shade, a hireling who waits for his wages. So I have been assigned months of misery, and troubled nights have been allotted to me. If in bed I say, when shall I arise? Then the night drags on. I am filled with restlessness until the dawn. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle. They come to an end without hope. Remember that my life is like the wind. I shall not see happiness again. That's amazing. Wow. Okay. Yeah. We're not going to get into Job. That's too much. That's over Bubba's head. That Job. We don't know what's going on with Job Filler. But that was beautiful. I think that was quite beautiful. And, Job is every man in that paragraph, but we know that's not the story. So anyway, we're not going to get into it. His lament is ours, though, right? Yeah. A slave who longs for the shade, a hireling who waits for his wages, and whatever our wages, they're death. Really? Talking about storytelling, we're waiting for the story. What's the end of our story? Death. Anyway. Second reading is from the letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, 1 Corinthians. Brothers and sisters, if I preach the gospel, this is no reason for me to boast, for an obligation that has been imposed on me. And woe to me if I do not preach it. If I do so willingly, I have a recompense. But if unwillingly, then I have been entrusted with a stewardship. What then is my recompense? That, when I preach, I offer the gospel free of charge, so as not to make full use of my right in the gospel. Although I am free in regard to all, I have made myself a slave to all, so as to win over as many as possible. To the weak I became weak, to win over the weak. I have become all things to all, to save at least some. All this I do for the sake of the gospel, so that I too may have a share in it. Oh gosh, I just, I got nothing nice to say. I have nothing nice to say on a Sunday about 1 Corinthians. Does anybody know, somebody might have seen, there was some little clip that went viral. And this was like a Protestant minister, like, the lesbian Protestant minister of the liberal church, with like rainbow colors. I think she was literally wearing something with rainbow colors on it. And she was reading from 1 Corinthians, and she said, oh, I left a part out because it was really like super yikes. This is how she said that. Like, it was like yikes, man. This is how she's talking. And I don't know what she left out. Does anybody know what she left out? I was wondering. I wanted to go look. But no, I don't like the egoism inherent in Christianity. And I saw it when I witnessed the born again thing that hit in the late 70s through the 80s. And by the end of the 80s, it had been subsumed and taken over sort of by this Christian Zionism now, sadly. But in the late 70s, there were a lot of people who were pretty screwed up from the 60s still around, right? And others. A lot of lost people who did well by becoming, quote unquote, born again, like Jimmy Carter, who was elected president in 76, so-called born again Christian. So there was a respectable born again sort of thing, just evangelical Christianity. And then obviously goofier sort of groups, but at first what it was kind of hippie-ish, or at least it was a place for people who wanted to get over that. It was more liberal, but apolitical, really. And that swept through. But the problem, I remember I saw it. I knew guys, young guys, we were juvenile delinquents, and so few of our guys got out of that lifestyle. Probably did well for themselves. I can think of one kid who probably did might have saved himself, from a horrible life by becoming born again. But there was always this element of egoism that I hated, that always just turned me off. And you couldn't keep the Christian can't keep the boast out of their voice when they're talking about this stuff. Yeah, all right, that's the Vatican. Words of the Holy Father. This is Vatican News. Today's gospel passage, Mark 129 through 39, presents Jesus' healing of Peter's mother-in-law and then of many other sick and suffering people who gather around him. The healing of Peter's mother-in-law is the first physical healing narrated by Mark. The woman is in bed with a fever. Jesus' attitude and gesture toward her are emblematic. He came and took her by the hand and lifted her up. The evangelist notes, there is so much tenderness in this simple act, which seems almost natural. The fever left her, and she served them. Jesus' healing power meets no resistance, and the person healed resumes her normal life, immediately thinking of others and not of herself. And this is significant. It is a sign of true health. Bending down to lift up the other. Let us not forget that the only legitimate way to look at a person from the top down is when you stretch out a hand to help them get up. The only one. Okay? And this is the mission that Jesus entrusted to the church. The Son of God manifests his lordship not from the top down, not from a distance, but in bending down, stretching out his hand. He manifests his lordship in closeness, in tenderness, in compassion. Closeness, tenderness, compassion are the style of God. It's very different from that feller in the Moses book, right? Totally different. This is a totally different conception from that Mosaic concept we just talked about of how God will be separated. You know, it's so funny when I read that. You know, and all of that business about keep the people away from God, they can't see God. It's like the misinformation campaign of his time, right? Thou shalt not spread. That should have been, why wasn't that in the Ten Commandments? Why not an 11th commandment against misinformation? Trump is going against the 11th commandment. Tom Anderson asks, was Billy Graham big in all this? Billy Graham was different, yeah. Billy Graham came through earlier, right? Billy Graham was a thing, was it the 50s? I don't even know. And that revivalism was not related to what I was talking about. The 70s version is sort of, like I said, that's kind of morphed into Christian Zionism now. Billy Graham was an odd character. One of his high-profile converts for a time was the gangster Mickey Cohen. Mickey Cohen was the Jewish gangster who was born in Boyle Heights, or in East LA, way back when. He was a gangster in the 30s or something. But he went through a phase where he was going to be born again and and clean up his act, and he was hanging out with Billy Graham. That was pretty funny. I wasn't there. This was the 50s, I think. Let's see if we can find that. People don't realize how Jewish organized crime really was. Can I show this? What about this? I didn't know what Billy Graham's story is, really. Let's see if we can find a piece. Oh, God, please. What the hell is that? Is that one of those generated voices or something? All right, let's just look at this. This is weird.
Is a very charming and provocative gentleman. He Whether you agree with his point of view or not on things, he's always extremely interesting to talk to. I don't agree with him on a great many subjects. There are a few that we do agree
really?
on. But he certainly is the best in the world at what he does. And Mr. Billy Graham.
Very nice to be with you, Woody, and I'd like to say that there's some things I don't agree with you on.
I know, but it's a question of which one of us will be converted by the time. I hope I can convert you to agnosticism by the time the show is over.
Well, I've had a lot of people try, and the more they try, the firmer I get in my conviction.
Can I ask you what your favorite commandment is?
Well, right now, with a lot of teenagers, it's to honor thy father and thy mother.
Really? That's my least favorite commandment.
Well, I have 5 children and 3 grandchildren. And I believe all of them follow that commandment. I think they honor their father and their mother. Now, that doesn't mean that they always agree with their father and their mother, but to honor them, to love them, to respect them. I certainly did my parents, and if I didn't, I got it.
Did you?
I really got it.
It's funny.
Yeah, what the hell? I don't know, you know. That's Woody Allen interviewing. What I wanted was to see if they had any footage of Mickey Cohen and Billy Graham. Here's the story.
Hello, I'm Will Graham, and I'm here at the Billy Graham Library, and I'm in front of what's known as the
They did old tent
the
revivals,
1949
yeah.
Los
Big,
Angeles
giant
Crusade
tents.
tent. And my grandfather had already been preaching for a number of years before this. But this is the place in Los Angeles at the cross section of Hill Street and Washington Street in 1949 where my grandfather would actually become famous. Yeah. It was only scheduled for 3 weeks. Now, I'm thinking as an...
You know, people forget, yeah, and LA wasn't always, you know, crazy LA of Hollywood and everything else. It was fairly conservative. Southern California was filled with Okies, for one thing, from, you know, the Great Migration, you know, that you know from Grapes of Wrath and stuff. And there was this great revival movement, you know, like I said, and Cohen, Graham almost converted Cohen.
Evangelist, 3 weeks, man, that's a lot of preaching. He went for 8 weeks. It was scheduled for 3. They kept extending it. And man, they saw God do some amazing things. It was really a supernatural outpouring of the Holy Spirit there. They were putting his sermons and they were putting articles all across the nation about Billy Graham. Because of his fame, people were asking him to take over and start doing a radio program. People wanted to hear Billy Graham all across the country. But he didn't feel like that's what God wanted him to do. But in 1950, he was getting enough pressure where he said, fine, if God wants me to do this, and I'm going to ask him for $25,000 as seed money to start this radio program. I'm going to give God by the end of the week. I want $25,000 by the end of the week. And so he was in Portland, Oregon. He was preaching out there, and people had sent in about $23,000.
Very different Portland.
And someone said, well, Billy, it looks like God gave you almost all your money. I guess it's a sign that we need to start. And my granddaddy said this. He said, I asked God for $25,000. Satan can give me $23,000. He said, I'm not going to do it. And so they were going to call it off, not going to do the radio program. But as they went by their front desk of their hotel, they asked if there was any mail. Now remember, they didn't have cell phones or email back then. They had to go to the front desk to get their messages. And so they went by their front desk, and lo and behold, there were some correspondence there, some letters. They opened the letters, and there were 2 checks. That was the remaining balance that he needed. They were mailed weeks before they knew how much money they needed. The checks were already in the mail. God provided supernaturally. That's what I love about this story so much. And so he wrote a letter back to his number 2 man. His name was George Wilson. And he said, George, and he wrote this letter from Oregon. He said, George, I want you to start and incorporate the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, which now in 2020, we're serving as our 70th anniversary. And so listen, I'm so excited what God's done through my granddaddy for the last 70 years. It's an amazing thing that how God has used him for that long, and he was in good health. God kept him in good health all those years. But my friends, the ministry of the work still goes on. We're still seeing people come to know Christ, and our goal is the same thing, to see people come to know Jesus Christ using every available means to do it. What I mean by means, whether it's radio, whether it's print, like magazines or newspapers, where it's movies or television. Now we're even into the internet age, and we're using the internet to go places where no one else can go before. All right, God is doing some supernatural things. Even this library, my granddaddy would never dream of something like this 70 years ago. We use this library as an ongoing ministry of Billy Graham.
right.
And what do I mean?
All right, I wanted more of a short news piece. Yeah, I don't even like the way that looks, that building. Just a moment. All right. All right, so, yeah. Anyway, we'll maybe get into some LA stuff and another broadcast. There's a good little popular history book out there called LA Noir, and it talks about the history of LA. The history of the LAPD is interesting. LA politics, all of it. The organized crime, story of Mickey Cohen's wild. Yeah. Anyway, Portland. Yeah, Portland used to be kind of more open to this sort of thing too. Yeah, that conservative element in Portland just got eat right up by its embrace of the weird, the deliberate embrace of the weird. Portland was probably was really cool when it was, this place that guys like Chuck Palahniuk and others romanticize as being, kind of, I don't know, charmingly a little degenerate, This is an Orthodox church, and this is beautiful right here. Yeah. Nothing's happening. Orthodox services today. St. Peter Orthodox Church. Where is this place?
Let's begin with prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Let us pray for our catechumens. Then will I sprinkle clean water upon you, and you shall be clean. Almighty and everlasting God, who dost continually enrich thy church with a new offspring, increase the faith and understanding of our catechumens, that they, being born again in the water of baptism, may be numbered again among the sons of thine adoption. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. May the words of my mouth and meditation of our hearts be pleasing to you, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. So as I mentioned just a moment ago, the subject that we're going to cover for this entire evening together is the Blessed Virgin Mary. Not only the church's view, but what is her role? What was her role? We know it was giving birth to our Lord Jesus Christ. But what was her role after that? What was her role after the resurrection? What is her role in the church based on what has constantly been taught about regarding the Blessed Virgin Mary? And I find, just like, I guess I should start a little bit, just like I began with the issue of confession. because I find, having come from Protestantism, I find that there is much confusion in the minds and misunderstandings in the minds of a lot of people regarding the Blessed Virgin Mary and her role in the church, mainly because of some very honest reactions about some of the things that Rome has taught about the Blessed Virgin Mary that the Orthodox Church has never agreed with and never made any part of our faith. Some of the practices that the Roman Catholic Church has gone to have gone a little bit too far, according to our faith now, okay? And I know that some of us come from a Roman Catholic tradition. I'm just saying, you know, what I want to present tonight is I pray it will be a way to help clear up misunderstandings and see with clarity how the church for 2,000 plus years has embraced this woman and seen this woman who the Archangel Gabriel declared was blessed of all women. It's a profound statement coming from an archangel, you know? And so we're going to look at this tonight. She is an infinitely important person, figure in the story of our salvation and to our faith. Tonight we look at the way the church has always viewed her, and by that, how we should all come to know her and see her and respect and honor this blessed woman. And before we address some of the misunderstandings, I want to give you just a little bit of background of some things that we know and understand about the life of the Blessed Virgin before the Archangel Gabriel came. And these are not going to be found in Scripture. They're going to be found in the handed down testimony of the church from generation to generation, from the first generation on, okay? And we do have various writings out there of what I'm about to share with you. So let's remember her parents, Saints Joachim and Anna. Joachim, some say Joachim, it's okay. Joachim and Anna were her parents. Joachim and Anna were barren all of their adult life. They could not bear a child. And so they lived in great shame, like Abraham and Sarah for the longest time, and others that we know in the Old Testament story. For someone not to be able to bear a child, there really was great cultural shame put upon them. And many thought, especially of the Hebrews, many thought that if you couldn't bear a child, it was because of some sinful living, that it was a punishment of God. Now, God never said this. I'm just saying what the people came to do. And so they really felt like outcasts, anyone who could not bear a child. And this is how they lived. And they prayed all of their adult life. And there was one time where St. Joachim, he goes into the temple with a particular sacrifice that they were supposed to give at one of the feast celebrations that they were supposed to bring in. And the priest actually, knowing his situation, rejected his sacrifice when he was old, very old. This broke his heart immensely. And he went out of that and shared this news with Anna, who also was incredibly broken because they lived an upright and holy life before God. Joachim went out into the wilderness literally to pray and to seek God and to ask for his assistance, while Anna remained there at home praying and asking and seeking God. Lord, give us a child. And their prayer was, Lord, give us a child, and if you give us a child, even at this age, we will offer this child back to you for your use. Just remove the shame from our lives. Have mercy on us. And in their old age, they were able to conceive, and they bore the Blessed Virgin Mary. The Virgin Mary, when she was old enough, somewhere around 4 or 5 years old is what's anticipated, she was indeed brought by Joachim and Anna, who, by the way, remember, they're very old. They're at the end of their life. She is brought to the temple, and she is offered to the priest, because in the Old Covenant and in the temple, you had a group of women called the temple virgins. These were people that served and assisted those who served in the temple with all of the work that needed to be done. You might think of them as an Old Covenant form of a convent. People who dedicated their lives to to the service of God and assisted all of the priests in whatever they needed, and assisted the people in whatever they needed when they came to the temple. One thing they would assist with, you know that there is ceremonial washing before you could come and offer your sacrifice. They even had temple pools all around the temple where people would wash. These women helped the women in the ceremonial washing and helped them come into the temple. These are the types of things. The Blessed Virgin was raised in that environment. And people would bring their children to that for periods of time, okay? And so that is where she was raised during that time. She would be there until she is betrothed to Joseph, which we first hear about in the Gospels. The bottom line is she was living in that environment and living a holy life of prayer and service to God that whole time. And then she was betrothed to Joseph. And that's where we pick it up, at the Annunciation, which we'll talk about in a few moments, and beyond. But this was her early life that we have handed down, to
Thank you, Father.
us.
What is it, McNeary? Thank you very much, Father. Yeah, okay. It looks like he's in a house, doesn't it? Is he in a house? Anyway, that was good. I want to know. I want to learn more about the Orthodox Church. I like the idea of the Orthodox Church. Certainly. So let's see, what are the chosen people up to then on this Sunday, on this Sabbath day? I'm going to Mondo Weiss. Yes, Mondo Weiss. Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, Day 121. Israel kills more than 1,000 Palestinians since International Court of Justice ruling. U.S. bombs Yemen, yeah. Casualty numbers on Mondo Weiss are 27,365 plus killed, at least 66,630 wounded in the Gaza Strip, 380 Palestinians killed in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem. Of course, still the case that Israel revised down its estimated October 7th death toll to 1,147. 562 Israeli soldiers have been killed since October 7th, and at least 3,221 injured. That comes from the IDF. Key developments, says Mondo Weiss. Israeli far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir says his plan is to, quote, encourage Gazans to voluntarily emigrate to places around the world, unquote, by offering them cash incentives. Ben-Gvir says he looks forward to Donald Trump's return to the Oval Office, believes that Trump will give Israel free hand in Gaza while President Joe Biden is, quote, hampering Israel's war effort. Yes, and as awful as Biden has been, if you think this whole thing's a farce, and they're just squeezing the Palestinians to finally get them off the land. Yeah, it's awful. I do like the idea of re-electing Trump just to stick it to the establishment, but Trump is an absolute terror. He holds out the potential to give Israel even more free hand. Biden, you see, is being reined in. He's being reined in by his own constituency, right? It's not popular. The Democrats are feeling some pressure. Everybody toes the line ultimately re-Israel, but the Democrats are feeling real pressure, and a shift could happen with the Democrats, similar to what happened with civil rights in the South and the Democrats, who were formerly the segregationists of the South, and switching. The Democrats should be doing that. But, we're talking about Israel here, so it's no simple matter.
but that shift should be happening by all rights. Dearborn, Michigan, right now is all, you know. They're trying to get, anyway. We'll talk about that later, but yeah, the Democrats have a real problem, and here comes Trump, who will try and out Zio, the Zionist, and he's also, to me, there's a great potential that he'll be rolled into going to war with China or anybody else, really. Even though you have to give him credit, he kept us out of war when he was in office, which seems to be like really hard for presidents to do now. It's the most difficult thing for a U.S. president, apparently, is to keep you out of war. I mean, I don't think Obama had any fucking love of military action, right? You know, I think he held with the same sort of ill-informed confidence that a lesser person holds his beliefs, you know, his general beliefs about colonialism and U.S. power and everything else. We saw that. The guy assented to lots of strikes. He assented to Hillary Clinton's war on Libya, an absolute fucking travesty crime. Anyway, and here's this weird thing for me now. The flip side of the problem the Democrats have with Biden. Biden having to now trying to put the brakes on. They're air brakes, mind you. This fucking thing is hauling ass down the runway, and the little air brakes, you know, they work. The little air brakes come out. I mean, they're not even like disc brakes on a car. It's just trying to slow them up a little bit, you know. Just give me something to take to Dearborn, Michigan, and elsewhere. And of course, Bibi has pretty much said, "Yeah, we're not listening to Biden. We're not listening to anybody." And Trump, you know, for all of it with Trump, he holds out the worst possibilities. I think the worst potential for the U.S. getting involved in a war on behalf of Israel, for the U.S. getting involved in war with China. Again, it's not fair. It's not fair for me to say that because Trump kept us out of war. And his instincts are good to keep us out of war. It's just, he won't be in charge. He wasn't really in charge when he was in power. He wasn't really in power, right? Anyway, it'll be the same story. Tom Anderson says, Pantsuit Clinton. Yeah, Hillary Clinton took the U.S. to war, not the U.S., really. What did we do? We just bombed Libya. She wrecked Libya because that was going to be her war, her victorious little war. Remember, wrecking Libya also led to an explosion of illegal migration into Europe and Merkel's blunder. You know, Merkel's famous bullshit where she says, we can do this. We can take all these migrants. And they took a huge wave of these fucking military-aged dipshits. Tom Anderson says, I'm worried that Trump would endorse the genocide of the Palestinians. Yeah, people still don't get it either. People think it's a conservative position to support Israel. Like it's a good thing what's happening right now because really the narrative is falling apart. I mean, it's good in that sense, but there remain those. I don't think it's a stubborn remnant of people who associate conservatism with, pro-Israel policy. There's another group of people now who are kind of right-wing and kind of out here on the edge, beyond the pale of politeness, who are out here and kind of on the edge of anti-Semitism or not, right? Who've gone full, not Zio, but have made don't even necessarily support Israel's actions, but have made October 7th and all the anti-Semitism that came out of it, really, that's come from Israel's reaction and stuff. And you see people being converted to an anti-Semitic point of view. Another group, sort of like the Baptists kind of guys, even though I don't really know what Bap's about. I don't know what's going on with, I really don't know what his story is. I never, read him or listen to his show or anything. I just see his tweets occasionally. But there's that group that's sort of, elitist, right? They have that aristocratic, whatever the fuck it is they're selling. But for them, a lot of them have said, no, we're not going any further with this anti-Semitic sort of stuff. That's for losers, it's that line. You guys are just like, you guys are the losers. We're not going with you. Tom says a BAP is a Zio shell. Is he? Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. It seems all very, I don't know. It's not for me. Tom Anderson, yeah, quote, marginalized losers, unquote. And, to me, it's not really, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. We're well, frankly, to be the loser doesn't mean you're a loser, right? If the system's corrupt, if the wrong people run things, if you're just, really like most of humanity through most of history, ethnically, you're left without a seat at the table, you become a loser. But, that doesn't mean you're a loser. The assumption is that all of these marginalized people in America that are saying angry shit, sometimes going too far, are just losers and guys who can't get their shit together, typical, poorly socialized, incapable, people. Well, that's not necessarily true, In fact, I see, not anymore, but in Portland, really, I'm here really in outside of the crazy zone, but in Portland, I saw lots of wrecked people, and most of them weren't, right-wingers, but I saw lots of people you would call losers by those criteria, who were definitely not right-wing. Anyway, the whole point about what I care about, the people I care about, the causes I care about are the causes of the marginalized people. But that is people who are being marginalized deliberately by policy that comes from above, deliberately by culture that is made increasingly, that is controlled increasingly by the same people who write copy for the fucking powerful. It's just, it's obvious. I hate this idea. I guess it hits home some, that you're just a loser if you're going to go there, Dennis. If you're going to go ahead and say that, talk about quote-unquote Jewish power. What a loser. There's what I used to call affected indifference is a very important thing for modern man. And it's really a con you pull on yourself. I think I was guilty of it most of my life, and we don't appreciate it, and people don't see it acting, but it's affected indifference is how you let yourself be marginalized and displaced and disenfranchised and everything else, and cuckolded and everything else. Is the guy who says, I don't care about this Jewish question. Now, let me tell you what I make. I got this house here, and, it's often that. It used to be a big thing with the immigrant question. Oh, you're a loser because you're competing for jobs with immigrants. That's what your problem is. Or I'm not uptight about the Jews because I'm not envious of them like you are. I'm a winner too. The Jews are the big winners right now. That's what you have to understand when you watch people less aware than us talk about this stuff. They are the present winners, like the WASP were the winners back in the day. You know, there's nobody around, but of course their rule is much harsher, as you see. The WASP were quite liberal. They don't get any credit for it. And it's funny, I've been watching some old television. The Rifleman. I vaguely remember it from when I was a kid, right? So that's there like on Amazon or whatever. I think it's on Amazon for free. Watching old episodes of The Rifleman. There's Chuck Connors. Oh, get the fuck out. Sorry. Chuck Connors with the rifle. And he never fires that fucking rifle. It opens with him firing off his, the Winchester, right? Lever action thing, whatever. That was his whole story, the Rifleman. But again, he's a freaking farmer. Anyway, it's funny. Shows all written by Jews, by the way. It's funny how liberal the themes were, and this was a show from what, early 60s maybe? It's in black and white, It's got good aspects to it. It's kind of corny and very touching. It's him, his wife's passed away, and he's raising his son, So every day, every episode's a lesson, I wonder if I could show you this. Do I have it on here? Just a moment while I see if I guess Dennis, you just pull up the Amazon website. You dummy. Pull that up. I wanted to show you a clip. I was going to include a clip, in fact, from this show. Amazon, I didn't even know how to use this, really. Amazon Prime, right? I can watch stuff on here. Prime Video. Prime Video. There it is. The complete first season of The Rifleman. All right. We show just a bit of it. What the hell was that? All right. Yeah, this is just funny. Chuck Connors is such a liberal, right? He's the rifleman, and you would think that this show was all about him gunning people down with that rifle.
Sorry, son, but sooner or later you had to find out.
Why did I? I didn't want to. Paul, his shoulder wasn't healed.
Not only poor Blandon's shoulder, but I mean all the ugly, useless suffering in the world. In time, you'll learn to accept it and bring it into balance with the good things.
I'll never be able to, Paul.
You will, son, because you have to. It's the price you pay on staying alive and in your right senses. It's manhood. And I can promise that when you come to the far end of it, you'll raise your old hands to bless this wonderful life you've been given. Taking it all together with the roast beef and the moon rises and a boy and his father riding out in the morning. After you're grown up to be a father yourself.
Yeah. It was always a lesson. As often as not, it was about, tolerating the other. Same with all of these shows, Poor America after World War II was infected with this confidence and swagger. We run the world. We won World War II. All these lies, kind of. But we run the world, and this idea that we could fix anything, coupled with this liberal, this nurtured
very manipulated liberal strain, you know, that, like I said, it's in all these old TV shows. It's something. I'm an old boomer, born in the '60s. I mean, you know, it always struck me as weird when I would hear a leftist talk about the supposed conditioning that I received in racism and everything else. Because for me, I watched a lot of television as a kid, and the memory was of just over and over again. The message was, you know, accept people different from you and be nice and yada yada yada. It was all just liberal pieties, like you know, kung fu, right? Remember kung fu? Kane. Every week it's with Kane, and he's the rednecks, always the rednecks, who can't accept, you know, the noble other. And you coupled that attitude with this, we can do anything, can do. We won World War II, baby. And that rode into the 60s and met, you know, the horror of black violence. Well, we didn't know yet. White people were just getting to know black people. They were moving into the cities. They were bringing their ways with them, and they were rioting. And so what was it? It was to, you know, the old 1-2, the can-do spirit and the liberal pieties. And we were going to fix this Negro problem with that. You know, it was going to be a bit of, you know, macho World War II bravado, and you know, your wise Jewish uncle lecturing you on the nice Negro people down the street. So sad, so stupid, so profoundly dumb when you think of it. And what did I tell you? Those who excel at telling stories win. So, and I would say that means we have to tell stories, but, you know, the stories are told, you know. It's like they mastered the stories, they told all the stories, and now they've broken off the whole tradition of telling stories, right? Like when you see them turn over the, you know, various movie franchises to the minorities, aside from the weird bullshit, racial weirdness of it, it's a huge statement, just implicitly, that these things don't mean that much, right? That's there, even if you accept their reasoning, right? These things that were, you know, cultural, not sacred, but something sacrosanct in the culture, you know, Star Wars, whatever, story. No, if they can just be taken down and you know, endlessly refashioned and handed over to other people, then they're, you know, obviously they're saying it's not that important. You know, all these stories weren't that important after all. Tom Anderson says we need a right-wing movie that's bigger and better than any movie ever made. Yeah, all right. I'm working on it. I have an idea. I don't know if it'd make a movie, but I had a little story going on the, I have like a fiction website, actually. But the story was the future, and it's diverse, but for various reasons, one of them being for diversity, yeah, things are falling apart. You know, really now, if we wrote it now, it'd have to be just that the U.S. is second-rate power now, and it's a Chinese world out there. But the story's just about a U.S. of the near future that's not completely wrecked, but is now considerably poorer, experiencing blackouts and rolling blackouts virtually everywhere, and nothing works. You know, it's like South Africa now, say. And
but not just because the Negroes run everything. You can't do that. You can't too heavy-handed and too. Frankly, it doesn't. No, it's not interesting enough. But anyway, so that's the setting, and these tents show, like that Billy Graham that we saw, the giant tents. These old tent shows that used to show back in the early, the late 1800s, early 1900s, they had the tent shows out there, not just the revivalists, but the so-called, you know what I'm talking about, the minstrel shows. Anyway, my story's about a future where, and it's for the same reason. The reason that the tent shows were a thing was that in the summer, this was before AC, in the summer, it was too damn hot to go inside to do anything. And people wanted to be outside as much as possible. And so if you're going to have a show, try to get a bunch of people to go to a show, you had to put in a big tent outside. So that was the origin of these tents. And one of the things they showed was the minstrel show, which, contrary to lefty bullshit, was just like black music. People already were addicted to black music and minstrelsy, right? But you couldn't necessarily get it. There weren't enough Negroes out there. And so often you would have white people doing blackface, competing to do the most authentic, what they would call it like African minstrelsy or some shit. Anyway, yeah. So because they can't even power, you can't run AC anymore because there's not enough electricity in the failing power grid of America of 2040, whatever. So now there's these tent shows again, and whites are this tiny diminishing minority, but people are, because shit's getting so fucked up, people are feeling nostalgic for white America. And so these little minstrel shows of white people spring up. And it's white people, like my character, the lead, Danny, is like one of the last gingers, right? There's like almost no gingers left. And he gets the job with the tent show because he's like a genuine pale ginger, right? Yeah, there's hardly any of you guys left. And anyway, the minstrel show for the white people, the white minstrel show is white people doing like white stuff. That would be the hard part because I don't know how to make the skits like the black minstrel would be the black humor and the black music. Yeah, and of course white people have no culture, so how can you do it, Dennis? Yeah. But yeah, and so anyway, and that's all I really had. I actually have that much written out. So, and the minstrel show becomes a problem for the powerful because at first it's like they're making fun of Hawaii. But the show becomes popular, and the public's reception of it isn't. It gets a little out of control. It gets a little too warm and a little too, friendly for the authorities. Yeah, and so the show. Well, and that's that's how we'll come to a bad end. But I've got nothing to get to the bad end. Because the show will become like enrage people, because it'll become popular, and it'll get, like I said, it'll go from being this little show where let's make fun of the whiteys to the show everybody just loves it. They love the various white characters, and I think, oh, that looks great, right? Well, that's the story, man. Do you like the idea, Tom? It's a good idea. I didn't explain it well. But anyway, the idea is a white minstrel show in the near future. And that's where it starts. Yeah. Anyway. All righty. So, speaking of Hawaii's, I was on, okay, well, I guess we're not talking about religion anymore. But anyway, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that. Let me see if I still have that up. I have a blog, which is like an old Blogspot blog. I was going to try and write fiction regularly. It's not even up here. There it is. All right. Okay. Not untethered. Oh, what the fuck? All right. Anyway, we'll find that some other time. All right. So we're sharing what? X, Twitter. This guy calls himself 9mm SMG. I don't know what that is. What kind of gun is an SMG? What was your most stereotypically white moment in your life? Asks 9mm. When I was 18, I got fired from Walmart unloading trucks. Was I stealing? Doing a poor job? No. I had punched out for lunch but continued working alone to make sure the trucks were unloaded ahead of schedule. Walmart showed me 5 separate instances of me doing that, and documentation showing I had punched out late for lunch several times so I could get grocery trucks unloaded and the driver could leave. Yeah, that sounds like something I might do. I've done that. I always had problems with the unions because unions would hang you for stuff like that. C6 Money Pit replies, I applied for a job with a health insurance company. Got a reply stating they were interested but needed to fill out an addendum for my race and sex. After submitting I was a white male, I was emailed back within 2 hours saying I was no longer being considered for the position. Toad, formerly Dick Thunder, says, I got pulled over for speeding last night, was polite, cooperative, and let go off with a warning. Yeah. Nick Gershowitz says, I was turned on to a certain drug at 15 and spent years living on couches/cars into my mid-20s. I humbled myself and got help, got clean, and began life with $0. Coming up on 7 years, I have a house, car, and getting married, all of which came from my own 2 hands and God. Jennifer Jablunovsky says, shortly after we bought our house, we found a cubbyhole behind a panel with a box of antique coins. We called the real estate agent and asked her to track down the family of the deceased previous owners for us so we could return it to the family. Now, I can't say I would do this. I don't think it would occur to me, sadly. That's good. Eminem says, a certain coworker complained to me about his money problems. I explained to him in great detail the Dave Ramsey method to financial wellness and success. As soon as the ship pulled into port, he took the train to Tokyo to buy Nikes that were not sold in the U.S. What the fuck? I don't even get that joke. Brotherhood says his whitest moment is having to teach my H-1B replacement hires, then being chewed out for them not being capable of doing so. Wild Z says, I have returned every shopping cart I have ever used back to the cart rack. I don't always I don't always return it to the cart rack. No. Because I'm for the tradition of the kid collecting the grocery carts. Yes. And I'm willing to pay the kid, right? We're all paying a little bit for the time that those kids, or not so kids, spend going out and getting those carts. I'm cool with that arrangement. The grocery cart is not this litmus test for civilization that people think. We are maybe lazy, but I'll usually do it too. American Viking says black tech comes Zelensky's bank account says his widest point is, I grew up with a mom and dad constantly taking interest in my life and properly guiding me into adulthood. Yeah. Well, Oswald says, I only use the cuck carts. What are the cuck carts? I hate when they don't have the little baskets, and they do that. Stater Brothers is near here. I go there because it's close, but the prices are not the best. They're quality grocery, I guess. But they don't have the little baskets. You got to get the cart and push the stupid shopping cart around. I usually go and get just a few things. And you got to push that cart around, and then you got to load. They don't have the self-checkout. I should like that, you know. Stater Brothers' image is that they employ more people, more service-oriented. So I guess I got to hand that to them. But I just want the basket. It's so much easier, you know. They don't do the baskets. Somebody else was doing that same thing. Yeah. And there's this weird thing that goes on. I don't know what's happening, but I've seen it happen twice now, at least twice. There's this giant guy in a mobility scooter who goes in there, and he has to be attended by the guys who work there, right? I think, you know, they have to help him shop. But when I saw him this last time, he's just sitting there, right? And he's holding something that he's going to buy, I guess, eventually. But he's just sitting there, and two guys are standing like sentries, standing by him. I'm thinking, is this like a security thing or something? What's going on? And you know, half the time when you see somebody who's that obese in one of these scooters, half the time they've got something wrong with their head already. I wish they had small carts. No, the Stater Brothers, they don't even have the. Yeah, I love the little carts. You mean the little short ones, right? Yeah, that's ideal. They don't have those at Stater. No, you got to push this giant cart around, and then when you go to line up, and it's always a line because they don't have the self checkout for one thing. So there's always lines, and you got this big cart, right? You got to pull that up, and you're unloading, and there's some fat lady some woman bearing down on you, right? And you got this giant cart blocking her with your cart, but you have to leave it there, or she'll move into your space. Something strange happened to me last time. This little Asian woman, half crazy looking, was behind me in line, and she walked up, and she like positioned herself like behind me. There's all this room, right? You know how there's the belt and there's the guy, and you're on the other side, and you queue up to the little display, maybe put your card in, whatever. And yeah, she comes right behind me. So I'm just looking at her, like staring at her, trying to stare her away, and she's just standing there and looking at me with this hint of aggression. Yeah, I don't know what that was. This is blissfully aware's widest moment. I was joyriding my Ducati Diavel out in the country. I was at a four-way stop sign and nailed it, taking off. Super fast bikes. By the time I had crested the hill in front of me, a quarter away from the stop sign, there was a county Mountie. I looked down. Speedo said 110 miles per hour. Immediately pulled over, stopped the bike, took my helmet off, extended the kickstand, stood up, and leaned against the seat, waiting for the cop to arrive. He did a couple of minutes later. He looked at me and smiled as he approached. Appreciated the bike. I had just cleaned it. Appreciated that I know I did wrong / pulled over waiting for him. We shot the shit for a while about cars. He had something similar happen to him in his Charger in a different county, and left with a handshake. I later saw him at a small town gas station, town of 400, in plain clothes, hurried up, went in, and bought him a case of beer, thanking him for what he does and the way he handled our situation, like a normal person. No, sir, that is white privilege. The white cop, good old boys, got together. Well, if you was a Negro, I was going to beat you to death with this here nightstick. But since you're a white, good. Oswald Spengler says, cart collectors at the store are the biblical shepherds of post-industrial civilization. Yeah, in fact, the collection of carts is an important thing in and of itself and has to be continued. You're not doing anybody any favors putting your carts back. We want young people to have this chore still. It's like raking the leaves. They probably don't do that anymore. I don't know if I see, I'm sure kids are still raking leaves out there. It was good that you had that chore, leaf raking. Brian says you can determine the amount of blacks in a town depending on the amount of shopping carts in the parking lot, out of their corrals at a Walmart. No, you can tell by how many shopping carts are nowhere near a store, right? And people just take them on down the street. Of course, there's a lot of that in Portland. Portland is unusual in that it's a very white dysfunction. It's still mostly white. And Portland was a place that attracted probably the highest percentage of any place. It attracted the white refuse of our time. Yeah. Trying to think, how are my Mexicans doing with the shopping cart thing? And, you know, Mexicans are pretty good at this stuff. They're about 50-50 on the shopping carts, right? Many of them will be very careless still about that sort of thing. Other ones, yeah. I didn't know if it's a majority of Mexicans, but it's notable to me how often I see Mexicans being deferential and polite. I like that about them. You know, there's certainly plenty of knuckleheads out there in the Latinx community. Latwinks community. But anyway. Oswald has never seen a Mexican cart collector. Sure, you've probably seen a Mexican kid at the store doing, I'll go show you one right now. Probably doing it at the store right there, yeah. Now, there are those other people who go in trucks or cars, or right, and collect the carts and then take them to the store and probably get some piece work price, you know, per cart. And of course, now the fix for the carts leaving the parking lot is that they actually rig them with the little brakes that will seize up if they get too far from the store. Oh, yeah. Gotta love it. And that is the real decline. That was the real sign of decline when that appeared. Yes, Brian, Mexicans are definitely midway between whites and black on the shopping cart etiquette. All right, so according to the New York Post, some of our migrants in New York are using illegal scooters to do Brazilian-style roll-up robberies, right? You always see these clips on YouTube of guys on a scooter or something rolling up to somebody at night, quick robbing them and taking off. The New York PD is cracking down on unregistered scooters as robberies involving moped-riding bandits have become a frequent problem across the city over the past couple of months. Officers targeted migrant facilities throughout the 5 boroughs Wednesday where they seized dozens of illegal electric bikes and took them away on a flatbed. The confiscated bikes had no registrations or had stolen plates, They have all these little scooters. We are seeing an uptick of scooter robberies in the city, particularly in Manhattan, where individuals are on scooters, normally 2 on a scooter, and they're taking their cell phones, AirPods, Beats, wallets, purses. Yeah. Those are the same guys, of course, who beat up the cops. And you saw that video. The cops didn't really get beat up, but they... here's more in the post. At least 4 migrants were busted this week for pickpocketing strap hangers, including one Venezuelan woman who's been arrested at least 8 times in the 6 months since she arrived in the Big Apple. I'm sorry, she's got here 6 months ago. She's been arrested 8 times, more than once a month. And she's still here. Maria Manara, 32, who's being housed at the Row New York City Hotel in Times Square, was nabbed Tuesday evening for allegedly snatching a 25-year-old woman's cell phone on a packed downtown number 6 train. So obviously if this woman can't control herself now, she's not going to be able to control herself later. Right? Patrick Mahomes' black dad got arrested on a DUI. Well, I'm looking for the story about the cop guys, but anyway. A couple of cops are trying to break up some rowdy migrants. What? And as you saw in the video, 2 cops got jumped, sort of, by some migrants. And then they got released without bail. And supposedly 4 of them caught a bus to California with the help of Catholic Charities. And it's not clear that they're even in violation of the law. They just have to be back for a court appearance in New York. They should be back for that. Here's another thing I noticed in the Post. Nutty New York City professor that held machete to Post reporter's neck fired from Cooper Union over anti-Israel rants. So here is one of these black academics who actually held a machete to a reporter's neck when the guy tried to interview her. Right? I'll kill you, Whitey. Nothing happened to her at the time. Now, anti-Israel rants, which aren't even that bad from what I've read here, just anti-Zionist ranting. Now they fire her. It's so funny to me that people think that's a win for us in any way, like when Claudine Gay lost her job for plagiarism. When people think, yeah, that's a W. Sometimes I watch Fleckus Talks, the young guys of Fleckus Talks. One of the better podcasts, not perfect. There's a lot that would change, but. And they were talking like it's a win. And I'm thinking, you kids don't really believe that shit, do you? It's not a win. Not remotely a win. What it established was, okay, there's a little carve out. Not that, we're taking down wokeism. No. It's that there are limits, and here we are establishing explicitly that you won't You can talk all the shit you want about Hawaii, but you will not go there. All right, you can literally hold machetes to the necks of Hawaiis. Don't you dare engage in tropes. Tom Anderson says, did you see the story? Yeah, I saw that. Supposedly, that's what I've been talking about. Yeah. Supposedly, they got on a bus for Calexico. So maybe at least these guys will go back to Mexico, but they don't even have to. They could probably do a short stint in New York City jail and still stay, you know. They probably aren't, however, the most far-sighted people. I mean, you're a migrant, you come here. All right, well, let's think about this. First thing I think is you're a migrant, you come here and instantly engage in crimes, you know. It's just fucking crazy. What are they doing? At the same time, none of these people can work. I think they can't legally work either. And the country, and which is just ridiculous. We bring them in and they can't legally work in many cases. Plus, even if they can, where are the jobs for these people who barely speak English, who just showed up, who don't know shit, right? They're doing like the Mexican immigrants used to do when I worked at a construction company. The bastards, they were good guys, all of them, but they were hicks. They came from Zacatecas and other like rural parts of Mexico, farm boys. They didn't even have plumbing. And in the crapper, they wouldn't flush their paper. They would wipe their ass and throw it in the garbage. And you would look over and there's all this. And there's always flies in there. And you couldn't get them to trust that they could flush paper down the toilet. Anyway, these guys are going to come here and get work. What kind of work are they going to get? So they come and they start stealing. It's all part of the plan, you know. It's all, you know. Right now, the powers that be really, they like that cops are getting beat up, you know. I mean, it was a woke DA. It's Alvin Bragg who let them go. Alvin Bragg, the anti-police district attorney of New York. New York used to be too important for this stuff. It was sacrificed long ago to get to Alvin Bragg and BLM. Sacrificed in 2020. Before that, it was like, okay, New York, we're going to have, you know, we're going to preach from here, from these media heights. We're going to preach about how, you know, how America has to do this and that, but here, we're going to enforce the law. That hasn't been a thing for almost 4 years now. Yeah, couldn't happen to a nicer town. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see the actual offending email that gets you fired either. Anyway, I'm going to have to check out because there's just nothing. But next Sunday, we'll do this for real. We'll go round the globe in search of religious practice in various, you know, today in God. That's what we want. Madonna dell'Arco and Vocaz, Canto, Francesco Pellegrino, Vesuvius Ensemble. Yes. I might have that on the video, actually. I think I do.
Okay.
Sore de nuit je vede qu'il est un bel homme. Sore Amaron. Qui est devant hasta Maron et l'arc Sore tenu de jevede Cagil scanze figlie capegas Sore Amaron. Maron nell'arca mia, Maron nell'arca. Io so venuta a te, anima e cuore. E se non so sincera, fa che muore. Maron nell'arca mia, Maron nell'arca. C'è sta una folla fine sotto a porte. Goppa all'altare s'encata sta gente. Nanda stu quadre belle e commovente. C'è sta una folla fine sotto a porte. Chi per l'amore, chi per malattia, te vengono a aprire ogni momento. E a una, due, fai contento. Chi per l'amore, chi per malattia. so tornata a te con stessa voce ed in te vena tengo stessa amore e tanto pianta ancora in tuo cuore. So tornata a te con stessa voce. Oggi che a festa tua fammo sta grazia, mietta ciamana tua in coppa stumma e tanto amore vinto mia carnale. Oggi che a festa tua fammi sta grazia.
Aiuta, 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 soccorre patria mia innanzi che mora. Aiuta, 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 soccorre patria mia innanzi che mora. L'uvviata tra i denti mi è venuta, tant'è la pena grande che m'accora. L'uvviata tra i denti mi è venuta, tant'è la pena grande che m'accora. Aiuta, 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 soccorre patria mia innanzi che mora. Aiuta, 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 soccorre patria mia innanzi che mora. Sai come quale quando t'ho servuta, se meglio t'asse corti siete fuori. Sai come quale quando t'ho servuta, se meglio t'asse corti siete fuori. lo fiato tra i denti mai venuto, tant'è la pena grande che m'ancora. Lo fiato tra i denti mai venuto, tant'è la pena grande che m'ancora. Aiuta, 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 soccorre pata mia nanzi che muora. Aiuta, 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 soccorre pata mia nanzi che muora. Se lo sospira avesse la parola, se lo sospira avesse la parola, che bella masciatura, che bella masciatura che saria, saria la masciatura, saria la masciatura, saria la masciatura e chi stupore, e buttare a masciata, e buttare a masciata nella mia. Quando parite bella agli occhi miei, tiene una faccia che è per la d'argento, tiene una faccia che è per la d'argento. E se la luna quando è mezzanotte, e se la luna quando è mezzanotte, possono trase qua, possono trase qua, possono trase qua nella luna notte. Mo che sta porta che tanta rispetta, mo che sta porta che tanta rispetta, a faccia scende via, a faccia scende via, se la faccia scende via, se buonanotte. Tu fai scurare il sole, madnanda, tu fai scurare il sole, madnanda, a luna quando ve, a luna quando ve, a luna quando ve, da levante. Aiuta, 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 soccorre pata mia nanzi che muora. Aiuta, 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 soccorre pata mia nanzi che muora. Lo piato tra i denti mai venuta, tant'è la pena grande che m'ancora. Sei come quale quando t'ho servuta, se meglio t'ho cortesia che fuori. Aiuta, 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 soccorre pata mia nanzi che muora. Aiuta, 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 soccorre pata mia nanzi che muora.
Suoni a battenti, suona chitarra mia, suoni a battenti. Di colpi giusti lo suona tutti da, di colpi giusti suona chitarra mia, di colpi giusti suona chitarra mia. Ruspiti dallo sonno, non più dormire, ruspiti dallo sonno, non più dormire, e non ci dormi qua, e non ci dormi qua, e non ci dormi quando c'ha la bimba male. C'ha bimba Mari e non ci dormi quando c'ha bimba Mari, un letto di viole, un letto di viole, ci tu facini. Ci lo facini, un letto di viole, un letto di viole, ci lo facini. I materazzini, cuscini di seta, e i lenzoli sogni arcamati. battenti, suona chitarra mia, suona chitarra mia, suoni a battenti, suona chitarra mia, suoni a battenti. Suona a battenti, suona a battenti. Suona chitarra mia,
All right, sorry about that. Oh, yeah, I was going to take off, but I've come back. I was going to bail out, so you guys are probably bailing. Thank you if you hung around through all that. Yeah, I wanted to share something else. One more thing here. So we're getting this whole Dearborn, Michigan, right? Somebody in the Wall Street Journal runs an article, a guy from Memory, and, you know, the Zionist outfit, MEMRI, writes an article in the Wall Street Journal calling Dearborn America's jihad capital. It might be that. I don't know. So now they're going through this whole, we get to, us regular people who have nothing to do with the people at Memory or the Muslims in Dearborn, get to endure this now, right? So Dearborn now, according to, you know, the breathless Daily Mail, which is always conventional. You can always count on the Daily Mail to go hard with the conventional globalist take, like on Ukraine, Israel. Now this, but they will also indulge the Muslim paranoia now that springs up, right? So now the Muslims in Dearborn are going to make a whole shitload of noise about how they're endangered because some guy named Stalinsky, the guy's name is Stalinsky, Steven Stalinsky. I didn't know if he's, you know, I don't know where he comes from. He works for Memory, MEMRI, so, you know. But because of an article in the Wall Street Journal, now everybody in Dearborn is going to make a bunch of noise about Islamophobia. And you realize that we're going to be subjected to these, you know, in perpetuity now. These little bullshit conflicts are going to take place in America and ultimately to our detriment. Dearborn will continue to get more Muslim. The Muslims of Dearborn are going to do fine, you know, as far as regards, you know, economically and everything else. I mean, the last thing they have to worry about is bigotry from Americans. And of course, the guys behind MEMRI, they're going to do fine too. But you and I, we're going to endure this until the whole fucking wheels come right off the bus. A Michigan suburb with the largest Muslim population in the U.S. has upped its security in fear of hate attacks after it was branded America's, quote, jihad capital, unquote. The headline of a Wall Street Journal opinion piece published on Friday read, quote, "Welcome to Dearborn, America's jihad capital," unquote. A title given to the city by the publication because of its residents' pro-Palestine stances. The contentious article was written by Steven Stalinsky, who is a commentator on terrorism and has served as an executive director of the Middle East Media Research Institute, based in Washington, D.C., since 1999. He warned in the story that Dearborn's majority Arab population ought to be paid close attention by counterterrorism agencies following October 7th. Why? They attacked Israel. They didn't attack us on October 7th. But his words have caused the mayor of the suburb to ramp up police presence outside mosques and other major civil centers because of Islamophobic threats being hurled at its majority Arab residents. Now, wait a minute. You know, they're not going to be clear here, but are they saying that after the article they started getting a bunch of threats, or they're always getting threats, or isn't this really probably a lot of bullshit that they're not getting threats? He read the article. He got excited, the mayor.
The Wall Street Journal op-ed has allegedly caused an, quote, alarming increase in bigoted and Islamophobic rhetoric, unquote, towards the some 110,000 locals living in Dearborn. Dearborn's mayor, Abdullah Hammoud, wrote on X, quote, effective immediately, Dearborn police will ramp up its presence across all places of worship and major infrastructure points. This is a direct result of the inflammatory WSJ opinion piece that has led to an alarming increase in bigoted and Islamophobic rhetoric online targeting the city of Dearborn. Stay vigilant, unquote. What a fucking outrage, right? It's an American city, and we're going to redeploy the police to post up on mosques when they don't really need to. You should do your own fucking security at mosques. Because somebody wrote an article that, you know, and frankly, the mayor isn't thinking, oh my God, there's a threat. He's thinking, oh my God, this is an opportunity. I'm going to get the cops out there to make a bunch of noise over this article. I'm going to be a hero. You know, fuck these people. As enjoyable as it is to watch the Zionists and the Democratic Party and all these horrible entities experience the effects of their own stupid actions, it's ultimately a sad tragedy for all of us what we're watching, of course. Eric, Tom Anderson says, Eric or Brett, can you tell them apart? I've seen one of them. I'm pretty sure it was Brett I saw here in Portland with Andy No, back before it was so dangerous that Andy No couldn't even be on the streets. They were downtown observing one of the Antifa crazy things. But anyway, yeah. Eric or Brett Weinstein was tweeting something about how Hamas is going to come across the Mexican border and come after Jews. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And they've got all these people coming over are scary fucking guys. You saw the people that were attacking the cops. They're all rough characters. People from Venezuela. Venezuela is like the roughest neighborhood in the world. We should take no one from Venezuela. I'm sure there are plenty of fine people from Venezuela. We shouldn't chance it, though. Too many of them are just fucking crazy. You know. And, of course, this is the Daily Mail. The Arab American Muslim mayor, 33, added in a statement, this is more than irresponsible journalism. Publishing such inflammatory writing puts Dearborn residents at increased risk for harm. Oh, I see. So we can't have freedom of speech because Hammoud, look at Hammoud. He's thoroughly Americanized. But he's going to play that Islamic hero. Saladin of the Senate. He's going to play that up for all it's worth. Yeah. Oswald says Michigan Representative Justin Amash, Palestinian Christian relatives died in bombing, but his name is an anagram of Hamas. You just moved the H over. My goodness. And they let him serve still somehow. Justin Amash. What's his position on stuff? I've heard the name. I have no idea what he's about. But if he's not pro-Israel and he has that name. Tom Anderson says, can't help but think there's a racial angle to Venezuelans being nuts. They're some of the most mixed people in the world. They're the party nuts. Yeah, they're the nuts of humanity. They're the nuts on the bar. The nuts that, you know, You have to be drunk to eat them. Right? There's those awful nuts that put tons of salt on them. And they come in the like paper-sided can. Yeah. But I think I'm out of material, and I have to go. Now I have to go for real. Does anybody have anything to say first before I go? Yeah. Maybe we'll come back later. I should have sent out some invites. We need to get people in here. Can't just sit here and pull stuff out of my ass. All righty. Since we've already played a shit ton of music, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to go. All right. Thank you, Tom. That's all I need is a little encouragement to get me to the next one. I haven't heard from Eki lately. I will send out. I've sent him invites a couple of times. I'll send out an invite every time we broadcast, so he can come on. He'll be streaming today. Oh, David will be. David hasn't been here. I didn't know what to say to David. I don't know what David's about. You know. Anyway. David's streaming in 30 minutes. All right. That's great. I'm going to shut this one down, and thank you. Pray for the Muslims of Dearborn. Good night.